Welcome to Woodsboro, a quiet little burg that is about to become a media circus. A teenage girl and her boyfriend are brutally murdered, and it has some connection to a murder that happened a year prior. This killer, dubbed Ghostface because of his frightening mask, is murdering everyone connected to high school senior Sydney Prescott. And Sydney must figure out the killer's identity before she runs out of friends and family. In what many horror fans consider to be Wes Craven's masterpiece, this 1996 horror classic started a franchise that is 4 films and 1 TV series strong, with a 5th film on the way. This is Scream. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
I'm Austin Johnson.
And this is a very special episode of Filmgazm. Welcome to the 82nd episode of the Filmgazm podcast. New logo and new unofficial production company, Filmgazm Productions, to go with it. More on all the cool shit we're planning at the end of the show. First up, we have a very cool announcement and introduction. Today we are joined by a very special guest. You've read his reviews, and now he's here via Skype to join us on Scream. Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Allred. Thanks for joining us on what I'm sure will be many episodes to come.
I certainly hope so. Thank you for having me, and I am in the flesh, so to speak. No longer will you read my words. You'll have a voice to put with that wonderfully handsome face on the site.
Fantastic. And eventually we do plan on having Caleb join the show as well when it is convenient for everyone. We'll keep you updated when that happens. But for the moment, we've got 3 out of 4, and as Jack Nicholson once said, that ain't bad. Before we begin, I've got one rewind, and it's on today's episode. Imagine my luck. David Arquette announced he will be officially joining the upcoming Scream 5, set to be directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, the duo who directed last year's horror comedy hit Ready or Not. So far, he's the only confirmed returning cast member, but I would bet money that Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox will come back too. They always do. Scream 5 is set for release in 2021, but that's tentative. What do you guys think about Scream 5?
Okay, so I'm okay with it, the idea of it at least, because the production is actually going to be in my hometown of Wilmington, North Carolina. Woot woot. So it's great. I know some people from there that'll be getting some work out of it, but it's not going to be the same because there's no Wes Craven in the director's chair. So that, for me, immediately puts it on the highly skeptical list of how good it's going to be. The team that's making it, okay, they've got something going for them there. However, with how I felt about Scream 4, I was just like, oh, it was lackluster. I wasn't a fan of it. They were kind of like, beating the dead horse to try and get some more change out of it, but it wasn't that good. I didn't like it.
Fair enough. Austin, what do you think?
Yeah, I echo that as well. I think the biggest thing for me, and I think for both of us, or all 3 of us, would be Wes Craven not being there. Already immediately taints the experience, taints the project altogether. So yeah, I'm not too excited, but I'm not as big of a Scream fan as you guys are. So I'm already, that's not really on my radar necessarily. But if Wes Craven's out, I'm out.
Yeah, it is a shame. I don't know. The Scream franchise has always found its way to being charming. I think Scream 4,
entertaining,
yeah. Well, not the best of the franchise. It was watchable. It was decent. Like, I'll watch Scream 4 before I watch Elm Street 5. Like, it's just, there's something about Scream that I think is just fun to watch. And I think the 2 guys they got behind this did so well with Ready or Not that I'm really interested to see how they handle this.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you bring up a good point with Scream. There's such an aesthetic there that that you just, you know what you're getting into, and you kind of go back to that because of that entertainment value. So yeah, I agree with you, man.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm going to see it. The fact that David Arquette's coming back, I think that's going to open the floodgates for pretty much everyone else who's still alive to come back.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, not like they got anything else going on.
Right. Well, that's the thing. You said it's tentative. It's like, well, everything is right now because of the state we're in with the theaters and movies even being released. So yeah, it's a real touchy.
Yeah. Well, that's off the rewind. So let's go around the room. Gentlemen, what was your first experience with Scream? Josh, why don't you start us off?
Well, I'm probably one of the only ones who is old enough to have seen it in a theater because I am the resident old fuck
Yes.
of the
Yeah,
group.
well, we were both only one when it came out in theaters.
Shut up. Don't remind me. So I don't know, like Connor and I talked about like where my roots are in horror movies and stuff like that. And it was Nightmare on Elm Street that really kind of, paved the way. And being able to go see Scream. I kind of talked about it a little bit in my review for Scream, kind of what the state of horror movies were, slashers specifically at that time, and it wasn't very good. I mean, you had a lot of more like monster type movies and things like that, sci-fi stuff, but nothing really in the slasher playground. And when this came out, it pretty much like kicked the teeth in of the genre itself, but also like reinvented it at the same time and just started this wave of, self-aware. I really hate the word meta because when I was in film school, they taught us that films that were kind of conscious of what they were doing are known as self-reflexive. They're able to look at what they're doing and be able to turn that mirror on themselves. This whole meta catchphrase nonsense really drives me crazy. Whatever. But it started a trend. I mean, after that you had I Know What You Did Last Summer, was Disturbing Behavior, The Faculty, lots of all these other things that were riding in Scream's wake. So it definitely, it kickstarted slashers again, and it also was a trendsetter.
Very true. Very true. Scream is one of the most, I'd say it's one of the most important horror films in the genre as far as kind of elevating a dying subgenre. And also, I think, kind of giving Wes Craven a second wind. I mean, prior to this, he just done Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which I fucking adore. That's my favorite of the Elm Street franchise. But I don't think that had anywhere near the success that Scream had for what Wes Craven.
No, and I think it wasn't as noticed as Scream was because it was Wes Craven still playing within his own sandbox, so to speak. And I mentioned that again. I'm not to beat my own drum here with my review, but I bring that up. It's he had already done this kind of thing where he poked right in at his own film, his own world, and did the exact same thing. I think what Scream did was kind of go back a little bit farther and try to make it as real as possible. And that's where a lot of people like me, we related to it because I was that kid who wandered around the video store and stared at all the covers and, picked out horror movies. That was me. So I identified a lot with Randy and all of that stuff, and just kind of how you have these conversations where you're like, oh man, I'd never do that. Or you're yelling at the movie while you're watching it. I did all of that. It struck me for sure.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad that you have such a personal connection to this that you can remember actually seeing it. That's really cool. Obviously, Austin and I were 1 year old when it came out, so we didn't get to have that. How did you discover Scream, Austin?
Yeah, in middle school years. I think when you're trying to find things and you're trying to explore that side of things, being scared. And I think Scream, first off, the title is genius. The posters are all fantastic. I think it has a really effective score, really effective opening credits. All these things come into play. And so when you're in middle school, that movie just kind of sweeps you off your feet and immediately becomes something that I got to share this with my friends. I got to have these conversations. And I think that's a great point Josh brought up. That relatability you have with Randy when he's specifically when he's talking about the rules and he's breaking the rules of horror, that is just, that's like our DNA. That's our bloodline. We love that stuff so much. And Scream has I think, Connor, you put it perfectly. It's one of the most impactful horror movies in our genre, of all time. It's not one of my favorites, but it's definitely one of the most important.
Yeah. It's funny. This was one of the first, or one of the last horror movies I saw. It's one of the last movies I watched before I moved from Maryland to Texas. I was still doing Netflix through the mail. It was my primary source of watching movies because all of our movies were packed up. And I discovered the Scream franchise because I was starting to search into more horror films. I was just starting to get into that. And I was the last one of my friends to learn about Scream. So I didn't really get to, introduce it to anybody. I dressed up as Ghostface my last Halloween in Maryland. And it was new to me, so I didn't give a shit. I was excited about it. I'm like, I have this new thing, and it's mine now. So I embraced it. And I've always liked these movies. I find them funny and charming, and the kills are always pretty inventive and oddly satisfying a lot of the time. And I think it's just a fun film, and I think it's a good one for us to do together. So, Scream was directed by the late great Wes Craven, director of such horror classics as A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes, Red Eye, The People Under the Stairs, and past episode topic, The Serpent and the Rainbow. I've never actually seen People Under the Stairs. I really want to. I've heard it's goofy as fuck.
It's goofy, but okay. So it's one of these movies again where the box art kind of is a little misleading because it's scary and terrifying, but the box art is way scarier than anything that happens in there. It's really just kind of this weird, fucked up movie where it like with Scream, like Wes Craven is always trying to, talk about things more so than, kind of like other directors where it's more just kind of about, the kills or that kind of thing. That movie had a lot to do with like gentrification and things like that. And at the heart of it, you have this brother and sister who have a very strange relationship. And they literally have all of these children that they've kidnapped that live within their house. And it's absurd. It's crazy. I'm trying to think of his name. He was in Twin Peaks. He was Ed, the gas station, Everett McGill or something like that.
Yeah, Everett McGill. Yeah.
Big Ed?
Yeah.
That guy?
So, yes. Yeah.
I know.
Love Big Ed. Fucking love Big Ed.
And it's one of the most bizarre, like, reveals of a personality in a movie, any movie, period. Like, he straight up at the finale of it, when things are breaking down, he's in a gimp suit hunting down this kid. Yeah, just the most bonkers thing you've ever seen.
Fuck. My God. We got to add that to the schedule. We got to do that. Holy shit.
Please. Yes, please.
Yeah. Wes Craven is one of the most, he's one of the most unique and popular, horror filmmakers of all time. He's listed among the greats, as he should be. And I regret that I haven't watched nearly as much of his films as I should have. I've never seen Last House on the Left. I've never seen The Hills Have Eyes.
Shame on you.
I know.
Oh, God. Oh. I can't with you guys sometimes.
Hey, we are learning as we go along. This is a learning experience.
I don't want to be that guy that said, how could you? How could you? All right.
Oh, man.
That's why I'm here. I'm here to be the voice of reason and the old man. You damn kids. You don't know your history.
You damn kids.
You're the horror guru. You're the guy who's seen everything. So show us the way.
I try. Well, look, you guys are gonna have to go down some very scary roads with me. I'm just warning you. Trust me, once we get into Tromaville, you guys are probably gonna regret ever having me around. I'm just putting that out there now. I don't know.
Well, we are gonna do our best to not fuck ourselves up with this podcast, but we are going to explore as like the weirdest movies we can find, and we will, we'll do our best. But eventually we are going to do less House on the Left on the show. It's just, I've heard it's incredibly, brutal and hard to get through. So it hasn't exactly been a priority of mine. Like, oh, let's sit down and watch this movie. I'll get the popcorn. It's
okay. I'll put it to you like this. It is one of those movies that it is very difficult to get through when the gnarly stuff hits. At the same time, somehow Wes Craven manages to make you laugh. And it's very simple the way he does it. Just music cues and things like that, but like it takes you like that moment where it's just like a release valve. You're like, oh my god, I just saw some of the most terrible, just like I feel dirty after watching this, and then you're like, oh my god, why am I laughing right now? But it works. So brace yourself. I'll just put it like that.
Craven was so good at that, just showing you the most fucked up shit and then making you laugh. He did that in all of his films. He was so good at balancing horror and comedy, like better than I think any other filmmaker. And it was such a shock when he died in 2015. 76 years old from brain cancer. But his legacy and contribution to horror will live forever. He will never, ever be forgotten. Scream was written by Kevin Williamson, who would also write Scream 2, Scream 4, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and The Faculty, as well as create and develop the TV shows Dawson's Creek, The Following, and The Vampire Diaries, among others. Interesting that the same guy wrote Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and The Faculty. He clearly was a one-trick pony.
I think he was onto something.
I also think that was Hollywood, striking while the iron was hot and trying to get anything and everything they can out of this kind of movie. I mean, and once it was found out, it was very easy to try and replicate it, change it just enough. I made a joke about it in a draft I was writing up for my review of Scream, where it became this joke, at least to me and like my friends when we were watching these movies as they came out, that the characters are supposed to be teenagers, but clearly the actors are in their early to mid 20s. And it was just the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. And not only that, Kevin Williamson with Dawson's Creek, there were actors from Dawson's Creek in these movies. Joshua Jackson's in Scream 2. There's just all kinds of different little tidbits in there. Just crazy that this whole like bleeding through and everybody getting work off of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's a great point that you said, that Hollywood just kind of drained everything they could out of it. And they'll always do that. They'll always find when something's cool and new and, people get attached to it, they're going to drain every cent they can out of it. And that can be obviously a good thing because it keeps movies going, keeps things moving, and keeps us going to the theater. But it also can be bad because it can taint the original product. But in this case, Scream still stands so strong.
I haven't seen Dawson's Creek, but I imagine it's basically Scream without the murder.
No. It will make you want to murder. It is.
Yes.
It is full of pretentious douchebag kids who use, 50-cent words like disestablishmentarianism, trying to fucking be intelligent, and they're still just horny teenagers who are screwing each other and fighting about it, and it's the worst. But I did get money off of it because I used to do extra work for them. I used to skip school to go do extra work. So, hey, who am I? Who am I to bite the hand that feeds me?
That's pretty sweet. Oh boy. One of my favorite gags in a Scary Movie, which was the spoof that
what was it? Scream supposed to be called Scary Movie originally?
Yeah, it was. That was Williamson's original draft.
That's what they called it while they were shooting it.
Oh, okay. Wow. So it took even into production. That's crazy.
Yeah. And there's a scene in that when Bobby goes into Cindy's window and like they're making out and the Dawson's Creek theme music starts playing, and then Dawson shows up in the window and is like, what the hell? And then he looks around. He's like, oh, wrong set. And he leaves. That movie's stupid as hell, but I love that gag.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy. Scary movie. Ugh. Well, Williamson was inspired to write Scream after watching a news story about real-life serial killer Danny Rolling, the Gainesville Ripper. Rolling murdered 5 students in Gainesville, Florida, over a span of 4 days in August 1990. When arrested, he confessed to raping several victims, committing an additional triple homicide in Shreveport, and trying to kill his own father. The total body count was 8. He was tried and convicted in 1994, executed by lethal injection in 2006. But Williamson was kind of captivated and a little freaked out by this guy who was just murdering teenagers in Florida. So he put pen to paper and imagined a scenario in which a young woman was alone in a house and taunted by a killer over the phone, a killer who would break into the house and murder her. And this became the basis for what was then called Scary Movie. Williamson went to Palm Springs to hammer out his script, which he did, along with 5-page outlines for 2 potential sequels. He went all in on this. He thought he'd have an easier time selling a franchise. And believe me, I've fucking tried. It is not easy to sell a franchise. But he did it.
Oh, no. Well, from what I heard Wes Craven say, that was the second script he had ever sold. So, go figure. I mean, I wrote an outline with Caleb that I sent to you, and that took us like 6 months, an entire deployment out at sea to get all of the nonsense I had in short stories, put it together, try and make some sense of it, and then get it out on paper and try to organize it. And I'm terrified now to like try and knock it into a screenplay because I'm just like, I have no idea how to start that thing. It's just waiting. So I can only imagine, like, I get the impetus behind like wanting to have more because that's all I've ever heard. I don't know if you guys listen to the movie Crypt, but with Adam Green and Joe Lynch talking, they're always like, if you have one script, you need to have like 4 more, or at least ideas, outlines behind it, because you sell one thing, they're gonna be like, well, what else you got?
Yep.
Yeah, and even if they don't want anything with it, you're right. They're gonna ask you just to ask you. Just give us as much content as you possibly can, and we'll take the little pieces we want out of it. You know, it's crazy.
For sure. I've tried a screenplay several times, and something about that format, I can't get into it. I can't tell the story the way I want to tell the story with that. So I've just stuck to novels and standard like short stories, and that's worked well for me, and I enjoy that realm. But maybe one day I'll take a stab at it, try it again. But that's just never been my forte. You know, I know my strengths when it comes to writing, and screenplay is not one of them.
Yeah, it's a very weird thing to try and tackle because you are extremely limited in terms of exposition. Anything that you want to like use set up what you're doing, it's primarily dialogue and camera direction.
Exactly.
So like me with my writing, I'm very visual in my head. I see everything that I'm writing, and so a lot of it, and that might come from consuming so many movies. I start to think about what this would look like, you know, if it would ever be on screen or if it's like playing out in front of me. So even though I've read some scripts and things like that, it's still very hard to divorce yourself from, you know, keeping everything to like only the most essential elements to what you want on there. It's so tough.
Yeah, I can't do that. I like to take, you know, big paragraphs to describe things, and I love doing that and finding descriptive language, finding ways to make these people and places come to life. And yeah, speaking of, actually, I've started working on a short story based on a nightmare I had 2 weeks ago.
Let's hear it.
Scared me more than I've ever been scared. Like, I woke up in cold sweats, turning all the lights on, like unable to go back to sleep because I didn't want to be in the dark. It was unbelievable. I've never been that scared in my life. So I immediately wrote that shit down, and now I'm 4 pages into this story. And it's going to be fucking weird. I've been looking for like, what is the scariest thing I can write? And I think I found it.
Very cool.
I won't
That's
give
awesome.
details yet, but once I
Okay.
get a draft, I'll send it to everybody for just to see what you guys think. But
I personally love your short story Turbulence. I think that one's fantastic.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. This one's called Wormwood.
Nice.
And it's going to be freaking, yeah, I'm excited. It's all I've been thinking about for the past week and a half. All right. Well, back to Williamson. He went to Palm Springs, wrote his script, wrote some outlines for the sequels. The script was then bought by Dimension Films, which was owned by up-and-coming production moguls Bob and Harvey Weinstein.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. They're big in this story. Wes Craven was approached to direct by Bob Weinstein, who knew that Craven was a master at bringing horror and comedy to life together on screen. Craven had already been interested in this project and was actually trying to bid on the project himself. So it worked out. Everybody got what they wanted. And ultimately, it was the Weinsteins who changed the movie's title to Scream, which Williamson and Craven were against until, they realized much better title than Scary Movie.
Do you know he passed on this?
Craven?
One? Yeah. Somebody told him to read the script, and he was like, I'm not into it right now. And at the time, he was really trying to get out of just being shoehorned into doing horror. He always wanted to branch out and be, a more well-rounded filmmaker and not just be the horror guy, even though it's a genre that has been, his legacy.
Yeah.
But he read it and he came around again. It came back around and he was like, okay, yeah. Drew Barrymore at that point was already attached to it before he was even on there. So yeah, he initially passed on it. Think about that. Nobody else, I don't think any other director could have pulled this movie off the way it came with, unless it was Wes Craven.
Yeah, it would have been too serious or it would have been too campy. Wes had that perfect middle. And there's only two constants that I know. Michael Jordan's not a baseball player, and Wes Craven does not make dramatic movies. He makes horror movies.
Yes. Yes.
Play to your strengths. So let's get into the cast. Neve Campbell was cast as Sidney Prescott. Campbell at the time was a lead on the TV series Party of Five, so she had busy days. Some of her other work includes The Craft, Wild Things, and a recurring role on House of Cards, but she'll always be Sidney Prescott, and I think she's accepted that. If you're going to lead a franchise like this, that's who you're going to be forever. And if you can't accept that as an actor, it's just going to ruin your life.
Yeah.
And she's great. I think Neve Campbell does a great job in all of them. She plays a very believable, first victim and then, kind of person who doesn't want to be a victim anymore. She does a really good job.
Well, I think the thing that really stands out about her performance in that first one is they set up these rules. Everybody's kind of conscious of what they are in a way, especially with the writing. But then the tried and true tropes that we all know and love are subverted. She gives it up towards the end of the movie, and by that notion, she should have died. She doesn't. She's always fought back. She's always been, an aggressive character. From then on, she's always on the front foot, always, one or two steps ahead, trying to be. But
Yeah.
oddly enough, when things start to turn around and the killer comes back after her, she keeps getting scared, which that might have been the only thing that's going to really you've been through this so many times, you're not just yeah, whatever, dude, let's go, just come on. And I think you do start to see that in the third and fourth movies, where it's she's way more proactive. But yeah, it was all about subverting tropes and expectations in the first one for sure.
I was actually going to bring that up. In the first two, she very much is oh God, this killer's after me and my friends. What am I going to do? 3 and 4, she's like fucking Ghostface. God damn it. I I love that. I love that she's now at that point where it's like Laurie Strode in Halloween, like come at me, asshole. Let's see how it's gonna go. I love that. I wish there was, I would love to see more of that in horror, more of where the victim becomes like this badass who's like, fuck you, you try it. I love that.
just from being worn out. Yeah. I think one of my favorite scenes from Scream is when Josh, you're talking about how they're subverting those tropes, and while you're listening to them talk about how they're not going to do it, they're kind of doing it. And she's on the phone and she's like, oh, the girl always, runs back inside when she just go out the front door, and she goes back inside. And so it's just this genius way of filmmaking. And you're Wes Craven, from what I've seen of his, is you're just in such fucking good hands where he understands everything that's happening in the movie. And that feels really good. And you immediately feel that way when Scream starts. It's awesome.
Damn straight. Courtney Cox was cast as heartless, bitchy reporter Gail Weathers. Cox approached the production herself because she was interested in playing a character with an edge. At the time, Cox played Monica on the insanely popular sitcom Friends, which personally I've never really been a fan of. I'm a Seinfeld and Frasier guy myself. But Cox does a great job as Gail. She's been in all 4 films, and she doesn't learn a goddamn thing in 4 movies. She keeps making the same mistakes. But, that's why we love her.
Well, I mean, she's like the Geraldo with tits in the first one. She's this annoying investigative journalist, all about sensationalism, very, very lax on the facts, just doesn't care, would, kick her own mom in the teeth just to get an exclusive. Yeah, and she does, have a little bit of a character turn. I think by the second movie, you're a little more sympathetic to her. You kind of like her. And by the third one, she is definitely like, okay, she is part of the cast now. Like, she is definitely like somebody you think of when you see these movies. First one, I hated the shit out of her.
Yeah, but there's only so many Dewey Riley, I thought you were a good person speeches I can take. Like, how many times are they going to do that?
Well, but if you think about it, though, that's very much real life too.
Yes. Yeah.
So many times, the good guy has finished last, and Dewey, it's so messed up in these movies. He's the fucking Terminator. Like, you keep stabbing him, you shoot him, like whatever, and he just keeps coming back. I hadn't seen Scream 3 since it came out, and I was watching it with my wife Jamie. We're sitting there, and Dewey's getting it, and he falls. And she's like, "No, Dewey, I love him so much." I'm like, "He'll be fine. Don't worry about it." Like, don't worry about it. He's good. Sure as shit. That they end up going around, and you hear Dewey's theme, as it's called, the little dum 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 dum.
Yeah.
Sure.
Fucking Dewey.
Oh God.
Can't stop. You can't keep Dewey down. So why wouldn't he be back for the 5th one?
Yeah,
exactly. I hope they kill him in part 5. I hope they kill him like for good.
It's the killer.
They could do that. There's that theory that Dewey's been like the secret mastermind behind the whole Ghostface killings. Why? Who the fuck knows? But I mean, I don't know. Maybe he was in love with Sydney's mom or something.
No, he's got a huge bone for Sydney. Huge bone.
True. He I don't know. Do you think there's some credence to that he is the mastermind behind the killings in all 4 movies, that he was like manipulating everything?
No. I mean, he does give that line. I think it's in the second one, I think, when he was talking to Gail. And he was talking about, well, maybe I was just subverting your expectations so I could get closer and get all the information I need, blah, blah, blah. Oh, so you're just playing stupid? You're not really stupid? No, dude, you get off a very Barney Fife vibe. Sorry. He's hurt.
Oh, boy. I get more of a Gomer Pyle vibe myself on him. Well, gadzooks, Sid. Anyway. So Skeet Ulrich was cast as Billy Loomis, Sydney's boy.
Boo.
Skeet.
Fucking Skeet. I can't
Johnny
handle
Depp
this guy.
2.0.
I can't handle Skeet.
Ulrich had already worked with Campbell before in The Craft, and he was cast mainly because he gave off a young Johnny Depp vibe. The producers were like, Johnny Depp, Elm Street, that's what we want. And they got Skeet. Like diet Johnny Depp with lime.
Yeah, but how can you take him seriously when you call yourself Skeet?
Yeah, that's not his first name, that's his stage name.
Yeah, exactly. He chose that shit.
I'm just, but still, you're like, hey, I'm Skeet. No, dude, nobody's gonna drop their panties for that.
I'm a 32-year-old high school senior. Like, fucking asshole.
All I wear is Hanes undershirts. That's it. God, I hate Skeet. Yeah, he's terrible.
I'm so glad he was the killer because we needed to see him die, and I wanted to see it done painfully, and I think we got it. Fucking Skeet. His career as a leading man never really took off, understandably so, but now he can be seen on CW's Riverdale as F.P. Jones. I hope he's not still playing a high schooler. That would be weird.
All right, would you be surprised though?
It's supposed to be like Jughead's dad or some shit.
Probably. I don't want to watch Riverdale. I never thought the Archie comics needed an edge, so I don't give a fuck about Riverdale. I don't know why this show is popular. It's such a weird idea. But Skeet is, he's getting paid, so good for him. David Arquette was cast as Officer Dewey Riley. Arquette was approached for the role of Billy, but he asked to read for Dewey instead because he wanted to play this kind of goofy cop. And Craven liked Arquette's kind of softer approach to the role, and he cast him. Originally, Dewey was supposed to be this like hunky cop, but Arquette showed up, and he's very much not a hunky cop. Like you said, he's Barney Fife. And he works like that. You need this kind of like dopey local law. He's a good counterbalance to everything that's going on.
Oh, I mean, and he's the older brother. So, I mean, he's definitely like very close to Sydney and all of the other high schoolers and stuff. He's probably only, supposed to be like maybe like 5 years older than all of them or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, he's definitely like, as the character works, it's great because nobody takes him seriously. I mean, his sister, Rose McGowan's character, Tatum, she totally like makes fun of him all the time. And, you never take him seriously, but yet there he is every time, like trying to save the day. Emphasis on trying.
True. He gets stabbed to death more than anybody in this franchise. It's pretty amazing. I wish I had. Do you guys notice that between Scream 2 and 3, the nerve damage is completely gone? Did that bother you? Like, is it really bothered me?
It didn't bother me. Like, just one of the scenes, like, he got over that pretty fast.
Well, like Scream 2, he's like he can't move his hand, his arm, he's like holding it up like this. Scream 3, he's holding a gun. Like, what the fuck? That's pretty serious nerve damage.
I mean, his limp let him down in Scream 2 because it was because of his limp that he fell down the auditorium steps trying to run away. Like,
true, but it's because of that scar tissue that he survived that time. Oh my God. Arquette would later marry his co-star Courtney Cox, but they would divorce in 2013. She was Courtney Cox Arquette for the longest time. Arquette has appeared in a ton of stuff, but Scream will be what he's known for as well. Off the top of my head, Riding the Bullet comes to mind.
Great movie.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. I don't know. I never really liked that story to begin with.
See, I've never actually read the story, but like I've heard Mick Garris talk about it, and for him it was one of these like very personal stories for him, and it came at the right time where he was going through something emotional and personal in his life. I think he lost his brother, and so he kind of used that in the writing of the script for it. So like they're just this really personal thing with it. So when you watch it in that context, if you get that context with it, it makes it a lot easier to digest than going straight from the page to the screen. You're like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah. That's when it comes to King, my process is read the book, watch the movie. So it's really tough for me to consider the movie in any other context. But
Sure.
with that in mind, I'll give Riding the Bullet another shot. Think about it. Try to think about it like that.
And listen to Mick Garris. I could listen to that guy talk all day long about film and writing and things like that. And he's amazing. And I think the way he manages to weave horror into his films and how he does things, you start to understand like why he's been able to work with Stephen King's material so much, and he's done such a fantastic job with almost everything. Like the marketing for Riding the Bullet really killed it too, because the studio wasn't sure how to like promote the movie. They did a shitty trailer for it, like all this other stuff that let it down. And so that's one of the things about movie making and stuff that fascinates me. It's like these little stories behind things.
Yeah.
And get a little more context to something. It allows you to kind of like digest it in another way.
True. Very true. I've had that happen before where I've had my mind completely changed about a movie just by, kind of giving it a different context. And context is important, not just for the film, but for the film viewing experience. Like Scream, for instance, you got to be in a certain mindset and you got to be a fan. Like, I think if you're not a fan of horror, you're not going to appreciate Scream nearly as much as somebody like us.
Okay. Let me point something out real quick about that though, because I am much newer. I'm only 25 years old, and I even being that young, I'm still really young in the horror researching and finding out about the greats, especially the American greats of our wonderful genre. Scream did impact me very much at a young age when I didn't know what Halloween was in middle school. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think the reason Scream is impactful for anyone is because of the cast, and then it actually, the kills are actually pretty fucking scary. They're pretty brutal. The garage door openings. I remember that when Tatum dies, that's like changed me as a middle schooler because I didn't know what any of that was. So I think you can look at it as, oh, this movie is for horror fans because it calls out to so many things. It respects the slasher genre. It respects how the 90s just didn't have a lot to offer for horror, especially in the middle and late 90s. But for me, when I first saw it, it didn't really matter because it was so entertaining and it was funny and it was scary. So if you knock out those three boxes, you're going to entertain anybody. It doesn't matter if they know what the references are or not. But I do think it enhances the experience if you are a horror fan, especially in hindsight now. If you watch it now at the age we are, I mean, you're just laughing your ass off at Randy because he's in the video store, like, going off about all these movies, and you're like, oh yeah, I know what that is. I know exactly what he's talking about. But I don't think you necessarily need that. That's how good Scream is. Like, that's how it kind of breaks that barrier, if you know what I mean.
Well, I just meant mainly that like anybody can be entertained by it, but a horror fan will find like different things to be like excited about. That's more what I meant.
For sure, yeah.
Of course, you get the layers to it. So like for like the way Austin pointed it, on the face of it, it's a great slasher, whodunit type hybrid where it is effective from start to finish. And then when you start to dig into it deeper, you have all the horror movie references, the character names, Billy Loomis.
Yes.
All of these other things. And then even deeper with like, characters that are cast against type. You have Henry Winkler playing the principal, and like the way he is totally not the Fonzie. He's this total dork of a principal who tries to be hard and take control of the situation, but he's just meat for the grinder. Like he's totally disposable, just like Drew Barrymore. Her whole death is very reminiscent of Psycho. Everybody saw Barrymore on the poster, and then she's gone in the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Yes. Yeah, so impactful. Yeah, that's a great point. The Drew Barrymore thing, yeah, I mean, that was a key way of, like, they were marketing Drew Barrymore. And yet for her, it's very, very reminiscent of Psycho. But I wouldn't have known that because I didn't see Psycho until I was, maybe 16 or 17. But I saw Scream when I was about 13. So it's just different.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. There's just so many levels to it, like you were
Yeah.
like started off with, Austin.
It really is. It's so cool because horror it meets you where you are. You know what I mean? It's awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll get more into that once we get into the plot for sure.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Next up, we got Matthew Lillard as Stu, the clown of the group, and definitely the craziest. Lillard is known more these days for playing Shaggy in the live-action Scooby-Doo movies, and he also had a minor but significant role in the Twin Peaks revival. Lillard is a interesting actor. He can do a lot. I don't think he's ever really gotten credit for his performances, and he's fucking great in Scream.
Very much so. The first time I saw him in a movie was SLC Punk.
Wow. Nice. Nice.
Yeah, I saw him in that, and it was one of these things, like, I was getting into punk rock, and it was like, you have to watch this movie.
Yes.
If you want this to be, your life, like, this has to, see if this speaks to you. It did. It fucking hit all the right notes, and even looking back on it now, there are some very, very sobering truths to that lifestyle, and whether you make it out on the other side and you come to find out that it's not all about this fucking fashion parade that punk rock can be. It's more the ideals and what you carry with you and who you are. And that movie taught me a lot at a point where I needed to have that kind of like identity things. Matthew Lillard is an amazing actor for having that kind of range and to be able to go pretty much all over the place.
Yeah, I echo that for sure. SLC Punk, Twin Peaks, Scream, and then and those are like staples, like you said, like in someone like for us as viewers, those are staples in our lives. But I think like one of my favorite performances of Matthew Lillard is 2011's The Descendants, when he goes toe to toe with George Clooney in a couple scenes that I just didn't know he had it in him. So he's amazing in that movie as well.
I haven't seen either of those movies. I got nothing.
You Shaggy, baby, Shaggy.
He's Shaggy to me. Yeah, that's mine.
Without a Paddle.
Never seen that.
Without a Paddle's not very good, but yeah, it's great. Like it's great for its own reasons. Yeah.
Exactly. It's fucking funny.
Yes,
I'm not giving you words, obviously, but you get what you pay for.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that one's been on my list for a very long time. Without a Paddle.
Yeah, it's your kind of comedy, Connor, for sure. You would love it, man. Yeah.
Speaking of comedy, comedian Jamie Kennedy was cast as Randy, the horror movie geek. Randy's rules of survival are pop culture famous now. Kennedy has also appeared in such films as Malibu's Most Wanted, Enemy of the State, Three Kings, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and Son of the Mask, which he should have been kicked out of Hollywood forever for, and I think he was. I've always found him to be kind of an annoying douchebag, but I like him in Scream.
Streets of Malibu.
I saw the Netflix trailer for that, and I'm like, no. Not a chance.
Bill Gluckman's down with the bitches and hoes. I love that movie. I think it's hilarious.
There's not enough weed in the world that would make me watch that again.
You don't need much for me to watch that.
Have you guys ever seen clips from the Jamie Kennedy show?
Oh yeah. Travesty.
Yeah. Oh my God. The most awkward shit I've ever seen. Just like berating the audience. Like the guy has no fucking clue how to be funny.
No. He is so strange, and he like really needs a movie that understands stuff like Scream and a character so specific like Randy for him to work for me. Yeah, that's just how I feel about him.
Yeah, for sure. I honestly, I can do without him. I don't need him again. I'm good. With Scream is my Jamie Kennedy a lot.
Yeah,
I don't need anymore.
You absolutely need Randy though. You need him in these movies.
He's great. He's a great character in this movie. He's maybe the greatest character. Just for being the guy who knows what's up. And I love
the relatability. Yeah, I mean, when he gets up in front of all those people at the house and pauses the movie to explain the rules is like, yeah, the audacity. I love it.
For sure. Rose McGowan was cast as Tatum, Sydney's best friend. McGowan would go on to appear in the TV series Charmed, as well as become Robert Rodriguez's leading lady for a while, starring in Planet Terror. She would also become one of the most outspoken voices against misogyny in Hollywood due to an event that happened on the production side of this movie. We'll get more into that later. Finally, we've got Drew Barrymore in her brief role as Casey, the second victim. Barrymore is the biggest star attached to the film. She approached the production herself, originally signed on to play Sydney, but when unexpected commitments elsewhere arose, she accepted the role of Casey, the character who was killed at the beginning, to prove just how serious the situation is. And having a big-name actress killed in the first act set the tone for the whole movie. Suddenly, nobody was safe. Anything goes. Brilliant. And like Josh said, very much like Psycho.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly, that's Craven paying homage. And it really works. Even if you know it's going to happen, it really still works. That's what I love most. That's what I love most about the Scream franchise is even if you know who the killer is, it's still fun. Still fun to watch.
Yes. The journey is what it's all about. It's not about the destination with Scream. It's the space between the notes is so good at this movie because it's constantly paying attention to itself. It's awesome.
And actually, when I was watching Scream 2, I had forgotten who the killer was. So I got to have like a re-experience on that one, which is nice. Scream has an IMDb score of 7.2, Rotten Tomatoes score of 79%. It was a massive hit, grossing $173 million on a budget of $14 million.
Wow.
It spawned 3 sequels to date, as well as a TV series reboot. So it's become one of the most profitable horror franchises in recent years.
Yeah. Okay. What have y'all seen any of that MTV nonsense? What is that?
Oh, no.
What is that? Who got that? Who has the rights to that? Like, how did they get to do that show?
I think Kevin Williamson signed over the rights to MTV for a TV series, and they rebooted it with a new Ghostface. It's like an anthology series, and it got kind of mixed reviews. It's got its fans, but I'm never gonna fucking check that out.
That is more for a generation who never had any experience with the franchise because it came out and it came and went for me because I didn't even pay attention to it. The best thing I can tell you recommendation wise is watch. It's on Netflix. It should still be on there. It's called Slasher, oddly enough, and it's an anthology series where each season is a different story, and it's way better than whatever that Scream nonsense was. I'm not even gonna waste my time and watch it. Slasher was pretty cool. It's got some different ideas that it's playing. The third one is probably the most bananas one. It just continually builds on itself. It's super gory, so you kind of get everybody gets a little bit in there. The gore hounds get something. People who want something fresh in a way, you get that. And yeah, I don't know. For me, the whole franchise itself, the idea only has so much mileage before it just starts to step on its own toes and stop. That's how I felt by the fourth one. I was just like, all right, I get it. And while they did have some good ideas, it just wasn't the same for me.
Fair enough. Slasher. I'll write that down. I'll check that out.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not a big I don't commit to a lot of TV shows, but that sounds really cool. Like you said it's an anthology where it's a different killer each season.
Yeah, it's a whole other story. And
oh wow, that's really cool.
And with most really good indie productions and stuff, they use a lot of the same actors will come up, but they're playing characters, different types and all of that stuff. The first season is just a straight up revenge movie with a masked killer. And the second one is a revenge story that has a summer camp twist on it. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to try to check that out, Connor. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put it on the list. The ever-growing list. So let's start on the plot of this thing.
Let's do it.
So the film opens with Casey Becker receiving phone calls from some guy. And instead of just kind of hanging up and calling the police, she keeps engaging this guy. And like the guy who's asking, so what are you doing? And she's like, just making popcorn, gonna watch a scary movie. And he's like, oh, you like scary movies? Oh, what's your favorite scary movie? And they're just talking about, like, she didn't know who the fuck this is, but she's just talking to the guy. And she says her favorite scary movie is Halloween. And yeah, I get that. Great movie. And eventually she asks the, appropriate question, like, why do you want to know my name? And he says one of the creepiest lines in horror movie history, I think, because I want to know who I'm looking at.
Oh,
Ooh.
Yeah. And I think it's one of these things, like, you get the audience engaged with this, because when I was watching it with my wife, her and I are watching it, and she's going like, why doesn't she call the police right now? What the fuck is her problem? She needs to hang up, call the cops, hang up. And, when she blocks the doors and like, I would just run, bitch, run. It really gets involved right from the beginning. If that guy was calling me, he would have fallen asleep asking me questions, and I just would have kept answering them. I really
do. Do you want to go through the whole plot of Halloween, sir? Because I can.
I've done it.
No. Let me tell you what the true continuity is, sir. Like, just go. Yeah, I can totally see that happening.
Oh man. Yeah, it's like someone robbing SpongeBob, and they're like, oh shit, never mind.
Yeah. The wrong house.
Yep. But he's pretty insistent, and she hangs up on him, and then he calls her back and is like, don't you do that again, or I will, like, I'm gonna gut you like a fish. It turns from playful to serious really fast. And she says, like, my boyfriend's gonna kick your ass. He plays football, and he'll destroy you. And she's like, the guy's like, look out back. And Steve's tied up in the backyard. Like, shit.
Steve.
He's
But
even got
any,
a
like,
jacket.
yeah. Oh yeah, of course, because he's a jock. Of course he's gonna have that shit. But like, anytime I watch that again and I hear her say that, I don't hear her say that. I hear Carmen Electra in Scary Movie. And my boyfriend's black and he'll kick your ass. I'm just like, oh fuck.
Me too, man. Like, that movie has kind of it's ruined a little bit of Scream, because I do hear them saying these lines sometimes, which fucking sucks. But it takes all the scares out of it. But it's funny. God damn it.
That's what you get when you watch too many movies, man.
I watched Scary Movie 2 recently, and that was that's pretty bad. I love Scary Movie 3. That's one of my favorites. It's something about the Zuckers. It's like what they can do with slapstick is so fucking great. And I love Leslie Nielsen as this idiot president. The whole 8 Mile shit. Like, that was, yeah, Scary Movie 3 is fucking hilarious. I'll stand by that.
It might have been all the drugs I've done in college. I don't even remember watching that.
They do, like, Signs and The Ring are the big ones. So Steve, the killer gives Casey an ultimatum. Says, like, I'm gonna give you some movie trivia. If you get it right, I won't kill Steve. And Casey's like, all right. He's like, who was the killer in Friday the 13th? And she's like, it was Jason. He's like, nope. She's like, yes, it was. I saw that movie 100 times. And he's like, well, you would know it was Jason's mom. Like, Jesus, I kind of get it, Like, I'd be frustrated about that too.
Mrs. Voorhees.
But yeah, straight up kill Steve.
Yeah, which is, again, like, we can say it over and over, but the intro to this movie is so fucking impactful and reminds you that, no, this is not a joke. This is going to be brutal.
Oh, yeah. And he throws a chair through the back window after, like, quizzing her, what door am I at? She takes off running, and then he breaks into the house, and it's this guy in a ghost face mask. immediately iconic. Straight up. And she's just, this guy chases Casey across the yard, stabs her in the throat right when her parents show up. And it's so sad to watch her try to scream for help, but she can't because her fucking vocal cords are shot. And he just picks her up and carves her up. And mom and dad find her hanging from a tree, her guts ripped open. Scream! Yeah, that opening sequence is unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. And Josh, is Wes Craven, is that what he, because I also haven't seen everything he's done. Does he always open his movies like that with just a fucking bang?
No. I mean, Serpent in the Rainbow, if I remember.
Yeah, that's really... I've just seen that one and First Nightmare on Elm Street. That's really it that I've really watched all the way through.
Trying to think, because New Nightmare was it's a different movie, so it's not really like, you know, like he's kind of playing in disregard, because I think if I'm correct, like New Nightmare opens and you don't realize it, but when the reveal is made, it's actually like they're making another movie about Freddy. And
okay.
Has this weird little game with you, where you're not sure. Last House on the Left, it starts off kind of, you know, like most movies in the 70s, it's just, you know, these two carefree kids, these girls are going to the city, we're going to go to a concert, and we're going to go smoke some grass, man, it'll be cool. And yeah, they wander into the wrong house and they're screwed. But yeah, I think the thing that he really does well, which reminds me a lot of Hitchcock, is he takes the idea of, you know, the safety in suburbia and kind of shows that, you know, there is this darker side to it, or that, you know, you're not as safe as you think you are in a neighborhood where everybody knows everybody. Because do you really know who your neighbors are? Do you know who this kid you've played with, you know, your whole life? Do you really know everything you know about him? Which kind of plays into the way the film evolves and everything starts coming out. There's always these dirty secrets in, you know, the cookie cutter white picket fence neighborhoods. David Lynch plays with those ideas too.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't really thought about Scream in that way, which is something I love about movies, because I grew up in a more suburban area, but I definitely felt at times that it was like very eerie, you know, because it is like, oh, it's all good, it's all fine, it's all quiet, but it's like, no, you know, every human has that, you know, has that shit in their closet, you know, that you don't want to fuck with. Yeah, I've always loved, obviously David Lynch is one of my favorite guys to do it. I've always loved the idea of messing with that. And Connor and I, we actually discussed a movie that's much different than this, but The Burbs from, you know, 1989, where it really dives into that and is really making fun of it. It's I love that idea.
Yeah. I fucking hate suburbia. Suburbia scares the shit out of me, man.
Yeah, no kidding.
I grew up in the mountains. Like, I didn't have neighbors. I had, you know, woods. So the very idea of having neighbors that are that close to you, no, I don't like that.
You didn't grow up with friends. You made your own friends, didn't you, Connor?
Yeah. With stick figures?
I had a rock statue in my front yard. I named him Bill, and we hung out for a while.
Oh, he's serious.
A particular bad thunderstorm knocked him over. I had friends, but it was just a mountain town in Maryland is not exactly, you know, there's slim pickings up there.
Yeah.
I had a few friends, but they lived in the neighboring town of Smithsburg, so I didn't have anybody to hang out with, like, outside of school, because we were right next to a defunct military base where, like, it was completely empty. It's now like they revamped it into like a community center. I looked it up recently, but when I lived there, it was completely empty, and it was like me, and then like 2 miles down the road was another house we didn't know, and then 5 miles down there, some other house, and it was just miles of woods as far as the eye could see. So, yeah, I'm just, you know, I'm kind of opposed to suburbia because that's just the way I grew up. I think what I really like about this opener is the way it completely obliterates star power. Like, that doesn't exist in this movie. Like, typically in a horror movie, the big name actor is going to be fine at least until the end of the movie. In this case, fucking gone in 10 minutes. It could be anybody who gets the axe next. And I like that.
Yeah, Go ahead, Josh, because I think we all love that part of this movie.
So I think the thing that sets up and then, it kind of becomes a joke in and of itself is the amount of names that are in these movies. Later on in the subsequent sequels, they're just jam packed with stars all over the place. And so, like it becomes this thing where, yeah, there are all these noticeable faces and things like that. And then it just becomes this question of when, not who necessarily, but when are one of these fuckers going to die? Because it's going to happen. You just don't know, because there's so many faces that can identify with, that it's just a matter of when. The biggest shock, of course, was, Drew Barrymore getting it right in the beginning.
Yeah, in Scream 2,
great point.
In Scream 2, I was really bummed that Sarah Michelle Gellar got killed off so unceremoniously because of how strong a character she was playing. Buffy at the time is this strong, independent, warrior, and then in Scream 2, she's just like, help me, cheerleader. And I think it kind of took a little bit away from that.
But that's exactly why. That's exactly why she got it. Think about it.
Yes, she gets typecast like reverse. It's like reverse typecast. Yeah, it's so cool.
Yep, that's true. That's a good point. Still, to see Buffy get thrown off the fucking building.
I know you feel like a personal connection to that show. Yeah.
Very true. I'm a huge Buffy and Angel fan. I love those shows. But, more on that later. So, Casey's dead, and word gets around town really fast. But before that, we meet Sydney and her boyfriend Billy, who sneaks into her bedroom window, and his reasoning is, it just occurred to me, I've never sneaked into your bedroom window before.
Yeah. This is right away. You're like, all right, Skeet's not a good actor. He's not convincing me. And the way he's talking is, man, I want to punch this guy in the face. He's like, well, like, we've been together for a couple years. We need to spice things up. Like, the fuck is wrong with this guy, man?
Dude, later on, when he's like, look, your mom's been dead for a year. Can we just have sex already?
Oh, my God. I fucking hate that part. Hate that part.
Jesus. God. Could you get a flag redder than that? Oh, my God.
Dude, creeping in your window is the worst red flag right there.
Yeah.
Come on.
I wonder her dad
his reasoning's like, well, I never done this before, so here we are.
Yeah, I wanted the adrenaline rush. Like, what? Yeah, get the hell out of here, man.
I've been so dying to dry hump you. Can you do that?
Yeah, I was thinking we could do some over the clothes stuff. Like, God, go home.
I was watching
Roger.
The Exorcist, and it made me want to fuck you. Like, what the? That's the weirdest come on I've ever heard in my life.
Red flag.
Jesus Christ.
Oh man.
So she's when she sees Billy the first time, she screams, and then her dad comes to check on her. And that reminded me of Scary Movie when it's Rick Dukeman who's like, I thought I heard screaming. And she's like, no, you didn't. And he's like, well, it could have been that crack I smoked earlier, I guess. Yeah, that's what it was. I fucking love Rick Dukeman. I wish he did more. Yeah. So yeah, I just keep seeing bits from Scary Movie just like Josh. It's fucking hilarious. But Sydney's a virgin. She doesn't know. She wants to, she's not ready. Billy tries to kind of get in there, and she says no.
There's no other way to put it, because Billy's not even trying to beat around the bush. He's just like,
no,
I'm just a fucking dude. Yeah.
There's no seduction here. It's like he falls on her. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
And he looks like he's 35. I can't get over that. He does not look anything like a high school. He looks like he broke out of the prison down the road. Like I just can't get over that shit.
Oh man.
He says, like, I'm only half serious. I wouldn't rush you into anything. Like, Come on, man. At least stand by your like fucked up traits. And she says she asks if he'll settle for PG-13, and she like flashes him off camera, and he's like, "Whoa!" Like he has this reaction of like, "Wow." Like he's never seen tits before, dude. Fucking relax.
Yeah, right. We know that kind of guy. That guy has been hunting, like watching Skinamax and making sure just the right time. Like that's exactly the kind of guy he is. We all know because at some point we were Billy. We were hungry for it. And the only thing we didn't do was act on it and drive him to the leg like a horned dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Billy's
arrogance and confidence actually do these things is appalling.
Okay. So that's another thing about like where the reality of this movie kind of comes into the movie. Is like we know people like we've seen guys like this. We've heard stories about guys like this. Guys who just stand there with a boner, just like going, "Look, do you see? Am I supposed to go home with this? What do you want me to do with that? You did it." But he's handsome. He's featured. Look, I knew plenty of girls that watched this movie that was like, "Oh my god, he's so hot. I'd let him sneak into my room." Yeah, right. And then you're gonna be pregnant. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, by a 35-year-old guy. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least you know you get Social Security soon.
Oy. So the next day we learn that a year prior to this, Sydney's mother was murdered, and the guy who's been put away for it, a guy named Cotton Weary, played by Liev Schreiber in a cameo that gets extended into part 2 and 3. Maybe my favorite like little bit about that movie, like that Liev Schreiber did just one little scene in this, knowing the potential of the character down the road. That's so cool. It's like really shows you how much they had planned as a franchise. And Sydney's testimony is what put Cotton Weary in prison. But Gail Weathers, the reporter, wrote a book proclaiming Cotton's innocence, and Cotton says he's innocent. Basically, she called Sydney a lying hoe, in so many words. So she and Gail have a beef before the movie even starts. Next day, the school is abuzz with the murder, and everyone's like, "Whoa, what happened?" And classes get canceled temporarily, and Sydney decides that since Dad's out of town and she's alone, she's gonna stay with her best friend Tatum. Sydney's hanging out with her friends. We meet Randy, who's obsessed with horror movies. Stu, who's like this clown and used to date Casey. He's dating Tatum now. He's going through this school like a case of herpes. And Sydney goes home to wait for Tatum to pick her up, and the phone rings, and she hears this voice, same one that was talking to Casey, and she says, like, "You're gonna die just like your mother." And Sydney's like, "Oh, it's the guy." And the killer comes out of the closet in Sydney's house and starts chasing her, like kind of, admittedly kind of half-assed through the house. Like, it's not time yet to kill Sydney. She locks herself in her bedroom and dials 911 through the computer, which I didn't know you could do that back in '96.
Neither did I.
Like, how is that faster?
Well, I think they were taking advantage of the fledgling internet at the time. I know that it didn't really work like that as far as I knew, unless you were like an actual no shit computer programmer and could like actually code and make your computer work that way. Again, movies kind of playing fast and loose with real life or whatever. She, as far as we know, doesn't really have a phone in her room. So, it also, I think what it shows is that she's intelligent and she's resourceful and can think on her feet. You know, she has some psycho trying to kill her, and she's successfully barricaded him out of her room, and she knows how to alert the authorities. And that's the thing that she does. She doesn't try and fucking cry and trip and fall and all this stuff. So it kind of characterizes her in a way. Like, yeah, it's really dumb. You're kind of like, how the fuck does she do? But nobody that sees that now is going, well, they didn't have that kind of technology in 1996. Me, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was like, damn, this bitch is smart. Come on.
I was just more surprised that, like, instead of, like, because she had the phone earlier. Like, why didn't she take that with her? I didn't know that you could even dial 911 through a computer. It just seems so weird to me. So I got focused on that. But Billy arrives.
So much.
Billy arrives, climbing through Sydney's window again. It's his favorite hobby. And a cell phone falls out of his pocket. And at the time, this is very suspicious because we didn't all have cell phones in 96. It was a luxury. So for Billy to have one gives him a big old, target on his back for being the killer. And Sydney immediately is like, oh my God, it was you. And Billy's like, whoa, I just got here. She runs downstairs, opens the door, and Dewey's holding the fucking mask like up to the door for some reason. Like, ah!
Again. It's Dewey.
Pretty much. They arrest Billy. He gets questioned, and Sydney doesn't stick up for him, which is immediately like, well, they must not have had a very tight relationship. If Sydney's just like, yeah, I think it was him because he had a cell phone. And Dewey is Tatum's older brother, the town deputy, who's kind of a dolt, kind of a, I won't say a moron, but definitely a little slow. And outside the police station, she gets confronted by Gail Weathers, who, as I said earlier, has a beef with Sydney, or Sydney has a beef with her. She feels Cotton Weary was wrongfully convicted. And when she says to Sydney, like, I'll send you a copy of my book, Sydney punches her right in the fucking jaw, and it's so satisfying. Gail gets punched by Sydney a lot in this franchise.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, how they go about it. I think they did it in the third one, the second. I don't know. Actually, no, Scream 2. Gail's like, oh no, you can't punch me, and then she ends up getting backhanded. And she's like, I didn't punch you, I just slapped you. What's the difference?
Yeah, but she deserves it every time because she pushes, she prods, and she's just insufferable. But she feels the murder of Casey Becker is connected to the murder of Sydney's mother. And she thinks the caller is the same guy. Tatum takes Sydney back to her house, tries to, tell her, like, look, everything's going to be fine. And she gets another phone call from the killer saying that they got the wrong guy again, which brings up that Cotton Weary is probably innocent. The next day at school, Sydney gets attacked again by the killer in the bathroom, which I know I shouldn't be thinking about this, but I'm just thinking, like, the whole time in there, the killer's standing on a toilet just kind of waiting. He's in the full costume, and he's just like, come on. I got class. Come on. But because of this attempt, classes get canceled for good, and there's a curfew in place in town. So, obviously, with a curfew and classes being canceled, it's party time. Let's throw a party. And Gail takes the cameraman to the party in an attempt to try to talk to Sydney again, but Dewey intercepts her, and she puts the charm on and tries to get Dewey to, show her, give her the inside scoop. But there's also something serious there, as we'll see later on in the franchise. They enter the party. Dewey decides not to bust the partygoers for underage drinking. He's like, "Hey, you're underage. I'm just messing with you." He's the cool, he's the cool cop.
He's trying to be the cool guy, trying really hard, but nobody would take him seriously anyway if he did try and arrest people. So and he knows that, which, shows, he does have some intelligence to him. He knows that, he's outnumbered. There's no way he could attempt to have any kind of control over that situation. He's mostly just focused on trying to find Sydney and make sure that she's okay, which is a very smart thing. I do want to go back up just a second when you're talking about the scene in the bathroom.
Yeah.
That scene was shot as kind of like a proof of concept in a way, of the movie itself. And Rose McGowan actually played the cheerleader that was trash talking Sydney. So, fun little bit of trivia. I learned from listening to the editor, Patrick Lussier, who worked a lot with Wes Craven in his career as his editor. He mentioned that. So, nice little bit of trivia for you.
Very cool. That's neat. So proof of concept, like this was, like they filmed that to kind of try to sell the movie.
Well, it was kind of a way of showing, this is what the dialogue is going to kind of be like. This is what we're going for with this movie, things like that.
Okay.
And I mean, obviously, I'm sure Bob Weinstein was probably rubbing his genitals while he was watching it, going, "Ooh, yeah, okay, I like this. Yeah. How much money you guys need? Yeah, no problem." So, yeah.
Jesus. Well, I know that Bob Weinstein was the one who kept going to them saying, like, is this going to be scary enough? And they kept showing him dailies, and he's like, oh, okay, I'm good.
So, okay, here you go. Because of the way that they were doing the shooting for this, they were editing. Patrick Lussier was editing the movie, as it was being shot. And Wes Craven was able to see a lot of the footage being assembled, per his his instructions and how he worked with Patrick Lussier and how they had a good relationship. So he was able to see the finished product evolve as they were doing it, which I think they had like a couple of months, 3 to 4 months, to put the film together before releasing it. Whereas in Scream 2, it was like a matter of weeks they had to get it, edited and just push it out to theaters, because it came out the next year. So like they fucking churn these things out real quick, back to back.
That's awesome. And considering they didn't have that much time to edit part 2, I think part 2 might be my favorite of them, honestly. Like there's some moments in part 2 that are fucking terrifying. And I think it really speaks to their talent that they were able to crank that out, and not just, crank it out, but crank out a good product.
I think that, and the fact that they had a little more scope to it.
Yeah.
It was, the Scream took place in a small town. This one was on a college campus and the surrounding town, and it was a lot bigger. It felt a lot bigger. So yeah, it was pretty impressive what they were able to do with time constraints and things like that.
True. Very true. So we forgot to mention the scene where Principal Fonzie gets stabbed, and it's always sad to see Henry Winkler go, but it's cool that we got a janitor cameo from Wes Craven wearing a Freddy's sweater. That was cool.
Oh yeah, okay. So check this out. Not only did Henry Winkler like go in hard on those kids, like literally actually scaring the shit out of them. Those were real scissors that he had. So those weren't prop, those weren't rubber, none of that. Those are real scissors, and they had no idea how dark he was going to get on them. And apparently probably lost forever to time. There's actually there was extended footage of Wes Craven as Fred the janitor, which he was totally embracing and on board for, like hamming it up, doing fucking walking down the hallway, slipping and falling on his mop water and all this shit. Kind of like muttering under his breath about these goddamn kids, and if only we could have seen that. I think it might have taken away from the film overall, but it should have been in there. Like, I think the way I was the way I heard it in this commentary I heard from Adam Green, Joe Lynch, and Patrick Lussier, where I'm getting some of these anecdotes from, that should have been at the end credits. Just let Wes Craven like do his thing, and apparently he was really up for it. There wasn't any reluctance on his part. He just totally went for it.
That's awesome. I'm glad that he was willing to embrace that. I would have been neat to get to see more scenes of him. I would have had him pop up in all 4 movies, just randomly, like Fred's, mopping something up, and just being like, "Fucking Ghostface, god damn it, I can't get a decent job in this town." Like just something like that.
Yeah.
So at the party, Billy and Sydney go upstairs and they fuck. Sydney's like, "It's time, Billy," and Billy's like, "Really? It's time?" And Sydney's like, "Yeah, I think so." He's like, "Well, as long as you're sure." And they go to Bone Town, which, according to the rules, means Sydney's now up for grabs for the killer. And during that, Tatum goes to the garage to get more beer, and she gets taken out by Ghostface, who kills her with a garage door. So innovative. She tries to crawl through the pet door, which is weird because I don't ever think we ever see a pet. But she's crawling through the door, and Ghostface clicks the garage door. She gets, sent up with the garage door, breaks her neck. But I can't believe nobody finds her, because that's where the beer is. Like, nobody went to get more beer?
Well, okay, so the way I understood it in the geography of things is they had a keg in the kitchen, and they probably were taking beer from the garage into the house. Party rules, if you're running the party, you try to keep space limited, you have no-go zones, things like that. I think because it was her boyfriend's house, she knew where the good stuff was.
Yes.
And that's where she was going to get it. Probably one of the most, like free paused frames in horror movie history is when she opens that door in the garage and it's just bing, nips right there.
Yeah, fair enough.
Everybody's done it. I've done it, probably too much, but yeah, it's right there, right out in front of you. But even Tatum, she was somewhat formidable, which I think is kind of a testament to what Wes was doing with this franchise. There were a lot of, capable females in this. Not all of them went down easy.
True. One of my favorite things about Ghostface in particular is the amount of times his ass gets knocked down. Because, like, he's just a guy in a costume. He's not Freddy he's not Jason. He's not Michael. He's not supernatural. He's not strong. He's just a dude. So, like, he gets knocked over quite a lot in this franchise. Like, somebody will just throw something at him and he'll just be like, "Ah!" and
it
fall
seems
over.
Like he's drunk.
It makes me laugh.
Yeah. It feels like Ghostface is drunk the whole movie. Yeah.
And definitely makes that, again, like this whole movie, subverting tropes and established ideas. It's showing you that this is just a dude.
Yeah.
They're capable of making mistakes. They can be taken advantage of. You can hurt them, but for one reason or another, like, it's like, so like, I have this idea about Michael Myers being kind of like this killer and monster that works in a totally, like, only in the world of a movie could you have him exist, because he pops in and out of frame. Like, you see him in one instance and then you turn around and he's gone in the next shot. Like, he seems to exist within the film itself, whereas the Ghostface, is very human, very susceptible to the laws of the genre they're working within, and human beings in general.
True. And the killers in this one are Billy and Stu, and we know for a fact these are some sloppy idiots. So they're gonna be, Stu's probably the one who took out Tatum, and he's a fucking moron. So of course he's gonna be, slipping and letting her throw beer at him and fucking up. It speaks well for the character. It actually gives you, like, kind of hints on who this is.
See, okay, and that's something I've tried to think about. and I haven't had the opportunity to actually like break it down and study it, but trying to figure out who's doing what when.
Yes.
Because, you look on it from the outside and you know who the killers are, then the game becomes, well, when is that Stu and when is it Billy?
When do they switch?
Yeah. Yeah, when are they playing it really straight up? Is Billy just going after Sydney? Is Stu, like how often are they going solo, or they're definitely working together in the beginning for sure. So that's definitely a fun game to try and figure out.
I think that all the times Sydney was being chased, I think it was Billy, because of his personal attachment to that. But I think when it was like, Tatum's murder and Henry Winkler, I think that was Stu, because he's just completely fucking crazy and just wanted to kill people. Like, his motives don't really exist. He's just here to kill. So I think that's how I would see it. When it's a personal attack, it's Billy. When it's crazy shit, it's Stu.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's the way I look at it. So Tatum gets killed by the killer. After Sydney and Billy have sex, Sydney again kind of questions Billy, like, well, if you had a phone call from jail, you could have called me. It would have been a good way to throw me off. And Billy's like, you still think it's me? And then Ghostface comes in and stabs him. I love that. Like, you still think I'm the killer? And Ghostface walks right in and just, ah! And she's like, ah! We think Billy's dead. Another chase starts. Dewey gets stabbed. And Gale in the news van swerves to avoid hitting Sydney in the road. Runs into a tree. We think Gale's dead now. Sydney goes back to the house. Randy is before all this, I wanted to bring up this scene because it's my favorite scene. Randy's watching Halloween with the partygoers.
Yes.
Partygoers leave, and Randy is screaming at the TV, Jamie, run! Oh my God, he's right behind you, just as Ghostface is creeping up on him. But the music in Halloween is echoing the scene of Ghostface. It's perfect. Like the dun music from Halloween is fitting the Scream scene here, and I fucking love that.
That's
it's
beautiful.
So layered, and it's like fucking Screamception. It's fantastic. And that's where we learn about Randy's rules. And let me see if I can find those. The rules of Scream are as follows. So Randy's rules. One second. Okay. Number 1, you will not survive if you have sex. Number 2, you will not survive if you do drinks or if you drink or do drugs. Number 3, you will not survive if you say, I'll be right back. Number 4, everyone is a suspect. And yeah, there we go. There's 2 additional rules that come from the killer. Number 5, you will not survive if you ask who's there. Number 6, you will not survive if you go out to investigate a strange noise. Randy does all of this except have sex. So, yeah, I think we'd probably be Randy in this situation. Like we know a lot about horror. We try not to get into these situations, but shit's inevitable.
I would definitely die because I like to drink, and at one point I was doing drugs. But that's what makes all these characters and stuff, like even in the dumbest slashers, like the Friday the 13th movies, The Burning, anything, Sleepaway Camp, all stuff. It's like everybody's done it, so like it's a very common thing. It's a very easy thing to relate to.
Yeah, and it just makes sense. A lot of it's common sense. Like, yeah, when there's a killer on the list, you shouldn't just go, I'll be right back, and go away alone. Makes sense. So when Sydney ends up in the house, she sees Randy and Stu, both claiming that the other one is the killer. She locks them both out, like she's not going to deal with that shit. And Billy stumbles down the stairs, bloodied, lets Randy and Stu into the house, and tells Sydney, who's got hold of Dewey's gun, give me the gun, Sid, it's okay. She gives him the gun without question, immediately shoots Randy in the shoulder, and says, corn syrup. Billy's the killer. He pretended to be stabbed, and then we find out Stu is his accomplice because he's got the voice changer. Billy's motive is that he holds Sidney's mother responsible for destroying his family. She had an affair with his father. His mother left. His mother abandoned him. His parents got divorced, and he just sees this as his family was completely destroyed by Maureen Prescott. And frankly, the entire goddamn franchise is because of Maureen Prescott. Like, she fucked up a lot. But, Scream 3 kind of shines a light on why. And when I was watching this initially, I was like, when I got to Scream 2, I'm like, that bitch slept around so much and fucked up so many lives. And then I watched Scream 3 and I was like, ooh, I shouldn't have said that. I felt really bad. But especially this franchise was produced by the Weinsteins, and Scream 3 really very much deals with the horrors of the casting couch. So very fucked up.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. When I was watching Scream 3 again, I had completely forgotten about that subplot. So when I was watching it, they start talking about how Maureen Prescott was abused by Hollywood. I'm like, God, Harvey's sitting right over there while they're reading this script out. Like, motherfucker.
They're not talking about me, are they?
Ugh. I wonder how many actresses in Scream 3 had to, play with Harvey to get in there. Ugh.
Well, there was the one girl who kind of, had that line. So.
Yeah, Emily Mortimer. I remember that.
Yeah. It's so funny. She had that whole, soft, demure, fucking fresh out of Kansas look to her. And then she does that with just, total maniac face. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. It's really it's really fucked up. I didn't sleep with Lance Henriksen to get fucking murdered. It was really fucked up. So Billy reveals that their plan is they're gonna kill Sidney. They have Sidney's dad locked up in a closet. They're gonna kill him, frame him, stab each other, and act like they're the lone survivors of the Ghostface killer. And they start stabbing each other, and Billy stabs Sue a little deep. He starts bleeding out, and Sidney says, "You sick fucks have seen one too many movies," and Billy yells, "Don't blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative." Great line.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I liked when Matthew Lillard got stabbed, a little too deep. You got me a little too deep. I'm feeling a little woozy here. That always gets me for a laugh. And on top of that, Billy, plays right up into that he's a horror geek himself when he quotes Norman Bates.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Yeah.
For me, hands down, the laugh is when Billy throws the phone at Stu, and Stu just goes, "You hit me with the phone, dick."
Yeah.
Perfect improv from Lillard there. Fantastic. So while they're stabbing each other.
I was saying is I was watching this with my wife, and I was blown away by her ability to just quote this movie line by line. And I looked at her and I was just like, I love you so much. She's like, what are you talking about? You are quoting this movie verbatim. I love you. So I got lucky.
That's beautiful, man. So Billy tells Stu to go get the gun. Stu goes to get the gun, and he goes, Houston, we have a problem, because the gun's gone. And Gail shows up, and tries to shoot them, but the safety's on, and Billy knocks her outside. And Sydney's gone missing. She is hiding in the closet. She stabs Billy with a umbrella, like while dressed as Ghostface, which I thought was a little weird. Like, when did she have time to put that on? Or why did she even put that on?
It allowed her to hide in the dark. My wife actually asked that very question. She's like, how did he not see her in the closet? I was like, because she was camouflaged. Obviously.
I'll take it. That makes sense to me.
It's good enough, yeah.
She stabs him with the umbrella and then kills Stu with the TV. I love that.
You want to know the line that I said right when she dropped the TV on his face?
Sure.
Welcome to prime time, bitch.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Perfect.
Wes Craven. It's a Nightmare on Elm Street reference. Duh. Even though he didn't direct fucking Dream Warriors.
Still perfect. I love that Stu's reaction is, my mom and dad are going to be so mad at me. He's so insane. He is completely fucking bonkers. So great. Sydney gets a hold of the gun, shoots Billy, and then Gail comes in. Oh, Gail shot Billy first. He's like, safety's on now, bitch, or something like that. And Billy and Gail and Sydney are standing over Billy, and Sydney's like, hold on. They always come back one last time, and Billy's like, ah! And Sid shoots him in the forehead. He's gone.
Yeah, that was Randy. He said, this is the point where the killer comes back for one final scare. And
yeah. Dewey's revealed to be alive somehow, and Randy's alive. Gail starts reporting about the scene of the crime. All is good until Scream 2, of course. So here's some Filmgazm facts. Number 1, the high school scenes were to be shot at Santa Nature, as they had been under the impression the film was a comedy, and the production was moved to Healdsburg, California. As payback, director Wes Craven put in the end credits under the special thanks section, no thanks whatsoever to the Santa Rosa City School District Governing Board. Petty. I love it. But that's a dick move. It's a movie called Scream. It's directed by Wes Craven. I mean, do your research before you agree to let the movie be shot. Number 2, Wes Craven discovered the Ghostface mask while scouting for filming locations in California. Craven was walking through a possible filming house, and inside one of the rooms, he saw the mask hung on a wall. He sent a photo to Dimension Films, and they told him to have the prop department make a mask similar to the mask in the bedroom, as they did not own the rights to this mask. But how cool is that? Wes Craven just kind of stumbled upon Ghostface mask, and it became such an iconic part of horror culture.
I mean, that's just the same thing you could say about them using a fucking negative Captain Kirk mask for fucking Halloween. It was just like this thing you just stumble on. You're like, wait, no, that's terrifying. Like, it totally dehumanizes whoever's behind it. You can't see anything. You just have this blank expression on there. Yeah, totally terrifying. Perfect.
It's awesome. I love little Kismet stories like that. Number 3, at one point during the filming of the opening scene, somebody forgot to unplug the phone that Casey used to try and call the cops. This resulted in real, puzzled 911 operators hearing Drew Barrymore screaming for her life on the other end. That must have been a little traumatizing for the switchboard to just hear Drew Barrymore freaking the fuck out, not knowing it's a movie.
Oh, hey, fun fact about the phone call. Those were all real, like, on, like, real conversations that they're happening at that time. It wasn't like, somebody off camera reading the lines from the killer. It was happening in that moment.
That's awesome. The voice was Roger Jackson, right? Some guy.
Yeah, it was actually some dude. It wasn't just some weird like voice changing knockoff or whatever.
That's cool. That guy's got, his own little, he was the voice of the killer in Scream. That's a cool thing to brag about.
Hell yeah.
It's like the fucking trailer guy in a world.
Oh hell yeah.
I wish I could be that guy that just does Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves on a bus with speed.
It's just two brothers.
It's just called Two Brothers. God damn it. I still got to watch this past week's episode. I'm behind.
So good.
And number 4, this movie has the uncomfortable distinction now of being the birthplace of the Me Too movement. Since Rose McGowan met producer Harvey Weinstein through this movie, and their association through this movie led to her eventual rape by Harvey Weinstein, and then her calling him out in the media for being a serial predator led to a domino effect which caused the modern Me Too movement. After Rose McGowan called out Weinstein, Alyssa Milano went on Twitter and encouraged all the other victims of Weinstein to come forward and post Me Too on Twitter. She then said anyone who's been victimized by any sexual assault post Me Too as well, and this led to the unexpected chain reaction to the Me Too movement itself. And it all started with Scream. Fucked up that it had to happen at all, but I'm glad that eventually he was called out on this shit, and he is going to rot in prison.
Well, I think the thing about it is that it just got called out, period. The fact that it was such a thing that was allowed to persist for as long as it did. I mean, it's been an ugly part of, filmmaking history, like movie industry history, not just Hollywood, but the whole industry as a whole for a long, long time. The fact that it took this long for something like this to happen is pretty sad, but it had to take a brave person to kind of stand up and identify themselves. There are some other parallels to it. Like, I don't know how much you guys paid attention to, like, Corey Feldman was very prominent in a lot of these kind of discussions about like child actors and the advantage, how much he was taken advantage of when he was younger. Corey Haim as well. I actually contributed to, I paid to watch the documentary that he had made about naming specific people that were involved in his abuse, Corey Haim's abuse, things like that. That was kind of like overhyped, and there were some weird other things that happened with the release of it, and we could kind of talk a little bit more about that offline. But the big thing about it was he actually like affected change in California to where they kind of removed the statute of limitations for when these things happen because of when things happened with Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, and when he chose to like name people and try to pursue charges, too much time had passed. So I think it was 2015, that California removed those. So it doesn't count for anything that happened prior to that, but anything that happens from that time on, these pervs and these fucking sickos have nowhere to hide, and it should change. It should change. It shouldn't exist that this is just, that's the way it goes. That's bullshit. Too many people stake their livelihood and their hopes and dreams on going to Hollywood and making it big. They shouldn't have to, not just sell their souls to go make it happen, but sell their bodies and their integrity to be in a movie. That's ridiculous. It's not that important.
Yeah. It's disgusting. And I hate that it's been an open secret for literally since the beginning of fucking Hollywood. Everyone knew about Harvey Weinstein. Nobody did shit because he was so powerful. And even jokes at the Oscars, and the Golden Globes, things like, And now here's the award for all the women who didn't have to sleep with Harvey Weinstein and shit like that. Like, it was a joke. It's so
that
funny.
that shouldn't have been a joke, and it's not one of those things. Like, that's why I love somebody like Ricky Gervais being on the Golden Globes and just roasting every one of those fuckers.
Yeah.
Because you sit there and you talk a big game, but you don't do anything about it. Like, you're gonna have to be uncomfortable and endure and face up to the fact that you were probably quiet and something like this happened because you didn't say something. And they kept him coming back. So, like, it's not like they didn't know what they were getting when Ricky Gervais was hosting the fucking Golden Globes.
That was so satisfying to see him just say, like, you all did it, not me. Like, you all, did movies with him. You all knew what was going on. Like, it wasn't even a joke. It was just straight up like, this is what happened and you have to live with that. Like, I'm glad he addressed that. Nobody else was fucking addressing that. Everyone was just trying to act like, well, he's in jail, so let's move on. No, that's not how it works.
They're protecting their own pockets and and trying to protect the guy who, it's disgusting. We can look back, and this has been going on forever, like you said, Connor, since the beginning of Hollywood, how they want to protect themselves and protect their own kind and keep lining their own pockets. It's fucked up. It makes you question why you like consistently do this and watch movies all the time, because you're just like, what really goes on? But it'll be a constant battle I always have in my mind. But yeah, fuck the Weinsteins. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a shame they were so instrumental in Scream's success. But, like we said with Roman Polanski, you have to separate the work from the man.
Yes.
Or else you'll never be able to enjoy anything.
Yes.
Well, I don't think about Harvey Weinstein when I watch Scream. I think about Wes Craven. So,
yeah. Same, and that's a great point. Is trying to look at glasses half full. Scream still did do great things for the horror genre. It did great things for those actors. It did great things for Wes Craven. Yeah, it's I don't want to look at it so narrow-minded, especially when a movie like this entertains me so much. So, for me, I think I know y'all's ratings. I believe one of you guys has this movie as a 10. Which one of you is it?
that was me.
Yeah, you have it as a 10, and Connor, you have it as an 8.
Yes.
Yeah, I lean more your way, Connor, of the 8, but I know, I think it might be different if we were born the same time Josh was.
Maybe.
It might be.
Maybe.
I mean, having that personal theater experience and when it actually changed the game in real time, it's just different.
Yeah, there's very few horror films that I saw at the movies that I knew immediately, like, these are going to be special.
Yeah, like game changer. Yeah.
Like, The Witch is one that I can remember thinking that.
Yeah. The
Same
Lighthouse.
with The Lighthouse, Hereditary for sure.
Yeah.
Get Out. Like, there are some movies that I saw and was like, I'm in the middle of something special here.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen very often. A lot of the times it's just kind of like, that was good or that sucked.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do get those gems, and Scream was one of those gems.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were 3 sequels made, all of which had Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette return in the lead roles. There was 1997's Scream 2, which saw Sidney facing a new Ghostface killer while in college. IMDb score 62%, Rotten Tomatoes score 82%, higher than the first movie, which surprised me. Then there was 2000's Scream 3, which saw a new Ghostface killing people on the set of the latest horror movie based on Sidney's life. IMDb score 5.6, Rotten Tomatoes 39%, and I'd totally forgotten about Jay and Silent Bob just popping up in the background.
Oh man, yeah, I did too.
It's fucking Connie Chung. So great.
$15, little man. Put that shit in my hand.
I just watched like all of those, so it was really fresh in my head. I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
Then there was 2011 Scream 4, which drags Ghostface into the discussion of internet fame and social media obsession. IMDb 6.1, Rotten Tomatoes 60%. And then in 2015, Scream, the TV series, premiered on MTV to mixed reviews. The show is a straight-up reboot with new characters. It's lasted 3 seasons so far, with the recent season seeing the show move to VH1 and rebooted with a new cast. Never a good sign. The show has not yet been renewed for a 4th season, but it hasn't been canceled either. It's kind of in limbo right now. But I can't imagine it's going to be that. I mean, to move to a new channel and has a new cast, I mean, that's not a good sign. Like earlier today, Ruby Rose left Batwoman. They're going to be recasting the role for season 2, so that is a huge red flag. That show's dead in the water now. I don't see that working out. But I watched the pilot of Batwoman. I wasn't that jazzed like I was with the rest of the Arrow shows, and I liked those for the most part. They're corny and cheesy and repetitive, but they're entertaining. Yeah, like you said, I give Scream an 8. Horror classic. I do enjoy it. Doesn't lose any punch when you know the twist. And we got an 8 from Austin, 10 from Josh. And I bet Caleb would probably give this a 10 as well. Seems like he would.
Yeah, do you know anything about that, Josh? How he feels about this movie?
He's probably going to be, if he doesn't go towards my end, he might just land in the middle.
Yeah.
I know he really likes Wes Craven. I was the one that told him, well, I didn't really tell him so much as I berated him for having never watched Last House on the Left or The Hills Have Eyes, things like that.
You gonna start berating now?
I mean, give me some time, I will.
I'm down.
So I always put it to Caleb. I was like, you have homework now. You will watch these movies and you will tell me about them. The thing about Caleb, as we all know, is he is very methodical with his entertainment consumption. And so if it isn't at the top of his list, he will get to it eventually. And that's when I usually just go hard on him. When you're trapped on a ship with him, you can make him do anything you want. I'll just put it like that.
God damn. I get that though. I have a list as well, and when you're constantly adding to it, you don't throw it on the top, and I understand that to a point. But yeah, I can understand. Beration will change that list for sure.
Well, it's more just like you only know Wes Craven from this point on. It's like you need to see these things because it occupies a very special place within horror and this person's career. I mean, this was his first feature that he made, and he got to do that after being working for like a production house or whatever for like a year and a half. They were like, "Oh, you've wanted to make movies, huh? You're an English professor in college." Year and a half in the job, because he was older and he knew how to network. They handed him, like, go write something you can direct. And his boss at the time was Sean Cunningham. So like, all of these things start to like make sense. It's like, oh shit, Sean Cunningham was working with a fledgling Wes Craven. And then he goes and makes Friday the 13th. Wes Craven, 4 years later, Nightmare on Elm Street, totally, makes New Line Cinema a fucking name unto itself. There's just like all these things that within the genre itself, when I was coming up, I was just watching these movies. I wasn't connecting these dots until I got older. And then it was like, oh shit, all of these things start to make sense.
Yeah.
You start to figure all this other stuff out. I recently bought and watched the documentary about Mark Patton, who was the main character in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. And that opens up a whole other side of horror movies in the 80s and how, it's jokingly referred to as the gay nightmare, but Mark Patton is a gay man, and there's a very real price he had to pay for being a gay man and trying to, be an actor at that time. It's right around the same time as like AIDS ravaged Hollywood and all this other stuff. So it's like all of these little bits where horror is right in there history at the time. So like things that some people treat as like throwaway movies, you're like, wait a minute. So this guy, the guy who was in the wheelchair in Friday the 13th Part 2, he was also a gay man who ended up dying of AIDS. There's a whole documentary that was made about him. So it's just like all of these different sides to a genre that I think I made the comparison to it where like Wes Craven's very intelligent and he wrote, he directed Scream. It's a very smart movie in a genre that's not known for its intelligence. So like, you get to see these things in here and find out that, there's so many different sides to this genre. And it's very important because all of these things are happening behind the scenes and you don't get it. But then when you know it, all of these other movies start to make more sense and become that much more important to you. I've always loved Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. It's really weird how, like I said earlier in the show about context, and when you start to understand the context of certain things, it gives you new meaning, and then you start to appreciate things in a whole new way that you never even knew before. And I can give you importance to movies that on the outside, nobody even thinks twice about. And that's what I've tried to do when I met Caleb, when I talked to you guys about these weird ass movies I watch, from Trauma especially. I could go down the line about, the jobs they've given the people, Lloyd Kaufman's philosophy on how he does his stuff. And it's just like so progressive at a time when nobody was doing that shit. So, context is key to everything, is I guess like the summation of that.
That's wow, man. That's heavy stuff. And I'm glad that you have that outlook. I think it's important, especially for horror, to appreciate it. I think, a lot of people disown horror just because, I don't want to get freaked out or that's trash. But it's a whole genre of people doing, I think, the most innovative work that's ever been done in film. Yeah. And somebody needs to shine a light on that. And at the moment, it's us. So, we do what we can.
Yeah, I think you put it beautifully, because that, like, my favorite thing about movies is those like little moments. It's not even while watching them. It's those little moments that you connect those dots, that you figure out, oh, damn, like, something that's always blown me away is like someone like Paul Thomas Anderson. That's like a guy I'm always watching his stuff, and you find out as I've gotten older that, oh, like he used Johnny Greenwood, who worked with Radiohead, and he did the music for worked on There Will Be Blood, and then did the master music. And those little things about movies is what like kind of keeps your gears grinding. The point A to point B. How do you actually get there? And someone like Wes Craven, I agree with you, it's so important for someone like Connor and I to go back and research because of those things. And I think you put it well, Josh. It's like you just got to see the past, because there's a way someone got to where they were. There's a way Scream came to be, and you got to see the shit that happened before. You couldn't have put it any better. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like, me and Austin, we experienced that big time when we went back and did the big Weird Shit Wednesday episodes on Vincent Price, and John Wayne and Philip Seymour Hoffman. We got to see their beginnings and their ends, and I think it made me understand them as human beings a lot more.
Yes, for sure. Especially Vincent Price, you find out this guy, just how much his hand was in, and how strong he was for the gay community. You brought up, how AIDS was booming. He stood up for those people, and is one of the first voices that was, hey, let's use our art to, promote good things and try to help people. So cool.
Oh, after doing that episode, Vincent Price became one of my favorite people. Like, learning about who he was, such a good person.
Same, yeah.
He is a fucking national treasure. I feel so like lucky that he's an American actor.
Yeah.
He is so revered in the genre as well, and he like never half-assed anything he was in. He always gave it his all. He was such a professional. Yeah. And he was a lover of art overall, just art, period. My wife gave me, hi Jamie, I love you. you're listening to this when this gets put out. She gave me one of the best Christmas presents of all time, and she bought me a Treasury of Great Recipes, which is a cookbook that Vincent put together with his wife Mary, a collection of recipes from hotels and restaurants all over the world. And I had been looking for it for years, and she bought it for me for Christmas as a total surprise. And again, it's one of these moments where I look at her, I love you. Like, she gets me. She gets me. I love all these weird, campy movies and people who really just leave nothing. You know, everything is fucking put out on the screen. Vincent Price is one of those people. A goddamn treasure.
Yes. Yes.
For sure. Well, so what are we doing on Friday, Austin? What do we got this Friday?
Friday we got a fun bonus. Wanted to keep it real 90s. Not the same year, not 96, but just 3 years after, and that'll be American Pie from 1999.
It was really tough to find a non-horror bonus for Scream. So we decided to just do a 90s teen comedy, maybe like the ultimate 90s teen comedy.
Yes.
And go into American Pie. Just have a fucking blast, just tearing that movie apart and just quoting it. And yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, gonna be a blast. And yeah, you know, the following week we got a real exciting one from Catherine Bigelow, Near Dark. So yeah, it's the train does not stop.
No, it does not, indeed. So let's see what happened this week in film. It was announced that Suspiria and Call Me By Your Name director Luca Guadagnino will be directing the long-discussed Scarface reboot. We don't need one. But to be fair, he did do a good job with Suspiria. That was neat how he did that.
Yeah, but
maybe he'll bring that same kind of like, you know, new meets old combo with Scarface. But this movie's they've been trying to make this for like 20 years now, and I don't know if it'll ever happen.
Well, and another thing about Suspiria is that it had its place, or always has had its place as kind of like an indie gem that really a lot of people know about, but you know, it's one of those. But Scarface is like a massive movie from the 80s. I just don't understand. Suspiria felt different. It felt like a remake was not necessary, but there was enough to do there differently that no one had seen yet. Even if you're remaking it. But Scarface, I feel like everybody's seen that. Under the Sun, right?
Yeah. What do you think, Josh?
So I'll address the Suspiria thing. I think Suspiria was like a good cover song in that
yeah.
Luca Guadagnino made it his own. Nobody was going to be able to touch what Dario Argento did with that movie.
Yeah.
And actually, okay, I'm gonna name drop a good friend of mine. His name's Ty Krebs. He is. You guys think I know about movies? This guy makes me look like a retard. Again, sorry I use that word. If anybody's offended, just come at me, whatever. But he's super intelligent. His mom exposed him to Phantasm when he was a kid. You know, my mom introduced me to Freddy Krueger. His mom introduced him to the Tall Man. So like, we're right there with each other. And he knows way more about like Giallo and stuff like this. But the point he made about it was like, these movies were made, especially Italian horror movies, were made to be visually and auditorially like an assault on your senses. Because people at the time would go into movie theaters to take naps, fall asleep to. So these movies had to like wake you up, which is why the visuals and why the music in Italian horror movies, especially in the case of Suspiria, were such like at the forefront, like they're right in front of you. Plot, character development be damned. It's all about the visuals and the score. I don't understand why somebody needs to remake Scarface. Scarface is, you know, it's such a product of its time. If you were to go and try to like take the idea of that and then take another era, I guess, in history to try and like interject that into, maybe I could see the reason for that. But if you're just trying to go and remake that, there's no point.
Well, I think since we got Luca Guadagnino behind it, I think he is going to try to make it a new character in a new time and a new place. Because that's what he did with Suspiria. And remember, 83 Scarface is a remake of the 32 Scarface, which was a Al Capone biopic unofficially. So I think this is going to be kind of a legacy movie where like every director takes a spin on it, kind of does their own thing with a new idea, which could be interesting. We'll see.
I'm gonna see it. I'm gonna see it in theaters. I just wish, especially I like Call Me by Your Name. I just wish he was doing something different.
Yeah, me too. Something original.
It's okay though. Yeah, you can't win them all.
True. George Miller is developing a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road titled Furiosa, which will tell the story of Charlize Theron's character from the action hit. Since it's a prequel, Theron is not returning. Killing Eve star Jodie Comer is being eyed to star. I don't need to know. I think leaving the character some mystery is good. I think all we need to know is she's a badass who, went against Immortan Joe to save some women, and that's fine. That's all we need to know.
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this all day. I get so tired of part of the reason I love, movies, especially over TV. Like I prefer movies over TV is because of that, that time limit, that time frame to be creative, the practicality where TV you can just take your time, have all this character development, and do have these kind of these spacers, these fillers, just in order to have that meet that 7 o'clock window so you can make money each week. That's not my style. I more prefer the movie thing. But if Mad Max Fury Road, you pointed out the reason it's so cool is because both those characters, Hardy and Theron, it's full of mystery, it's full of wonder, and I personally I don't want to lose that. That's one of the reasons I hated El Camino is I wanted to hold on to that Jesse Pinkman mystery, and they completely kicked me in the face with it. And that's just not my style,
Yeah, fair enough. It's been a long time since I saw Fury Road. I honestly do not remember it that well. I should give it another watch.
Oh, damn good.
I liked it a lot. It's been a long time.
I think it was really wonderful that we got another like movie set in that world, because you see like how hard he worked on these other movies to get to that point.
Yeah.
And then he was allowed to just go totally off the chain, just fully embrace this world that he created. To me, The Road Warrior is probably one of the best Ozploitation movies that ever come out of Australia at that time. And that's a whole other area of movies like you guys should check out. Like Australian movies from that time frame, from the 70s and 80s, they were doing things that like they were pushing so many limits and buttons and borrowing so much from America, but like making it uniquely theirs. I reviewed a movie while I was in Florida for a school. It's called Dead End Drive-In, and that movie is so like just so ahead of its time and just crazy. Like you wouldn't get that kind of stuff in America, and that's another reason why I love movies from other countries, especially other English-speaking countries.
Yes,
because like you just enough difference culturally that you're like, wow, that's what really gets these fuckers off over there.
Yeah.
Like, cool, let's do it.
Yeah, man. Australia's a great point because that's not a country you would think about initially, right? You think of France and Italy and United States and England, but that's a good call. Australia, I've read that, like you said, ahead of their time. I've heard that in the 70s and 80s, the action that's happening there is almost like law bending, like they're breaking laws while filming this kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm very intrigued by that.
Right on, guys. I haven't really tapped into Australian film. Besides, I've seen the Mad Max franchise, but that's kind of it. I'm gonna have to definitely look into Australia's action scene. That's for sure.
I think there's a documentary about the whole Ozploitation thing. I've yet to watch it, but I know a few of the movies they talk about. It's called Far From Hollywood, I believe. and that should give you a good list of things to just start digesting.
Yeah.
Right on. I'll keep that in mind. 2 trailers were dropped this week. The first, a Russell Crowe-led road thriller called Unhinged. Looks bizarre but entertaining. Is it the movie that's going to turn the get people back to theaters? Not a chance in hell.
Nope.
But it looks entertaining, and if it drops on VOD, I'll probably buy it. I love seeing Russell Crowe lose his shit.
I might. I don't feel a huge connection to Russell Crowe, like, obviously. But the main thing is, like, this is not the one that's going to save anything. So just don't get your hopes up.
No. The other one, though, is a Spike Lee Vietnam War heist thriller called Da 5 Bloods, and that looks fucking awesome.
Yes, indeed. That's going to be really good.
Yeah, and that'll go straight to Netflix, so we'll be able to do that.
I haven't watched that, so I'll have to check out the trailer for that. I'm a big fan of Spike Lee, like, especially with his early stuff.
Oh man, my God, Do the Right Thing is one of the best movies of all time. Yeah.
He was one of these people that had this unique voice, and it was also this interesting blend of, like, French New Wave, like, influence with some of his stuff, and how he played around a lot, and
he wasn't scared to do that.
No, fuck no. I mean, he, like, what did he have to lose? What was somebody gonna be like? Yeah, we're not gonna make your next movie. Well, fuck it. I'm gonna go make the movie I want to make anyway. That's one of the reasons why I love Jim Jarmusch movies.
Oh,
he just
gosh.
whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, man. Yeah, great call. Yeah, Spike Lee has always. I mean, I don't even love all of his movies. Some of them are just not that great to me, but I will always respect his tenacity to kind of stick to his own vision. And, like, the Black Klansman, it didn't need to end that way, but he wanted it to, so it did.
Yeah, very true. I've barely tapped into Spike Lee, and I've talked about that a bit on the podcast before. And I will make an effort to look into more of his stuff. I know She's Gotta Have It is on Netflix, so I'll be watching that one soon.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, and I have a pretty good collection. I'll let you borrow some one day. I mean, we'll do a Spike Lee episode, I'm sure, at some point.
Right on. Indie film director Lynn Shelton has died at age 54 from a blood disorder. Shelton was an up-and-comer known for her films Hump Day, Your Sister's Sister, and the miniseries Little Fires Everywhere, among other things. And this is a big shock in the indie community.
Sucks, man. She was dating Mark Maron.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah, sad stuff, man. And that show just came out on Hulu, right? That just sucks. Not really be able to see people digest your art, your craft, that's got to suck. For sure.
And then finally, veteran comedic actor Fred Willard has died at age 86 from natural causes. Willard is perhaps best known for his work with Christopher Guest on the films Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, and For Your Consideration. He also had a memorable role in 2004's Anchorman, among many other appearances over the years. And this one hit me hard. I loved Fred Willard. That guy was funny as hell. He was my favorite thing about Best in Show. And I had no idea he was in his 80s.
Right?
He looked great.
Like he could be 55.
Yeah, he looked great. What a shocker, man. I watched Best in Show this past weekend, like, in honor of him, and I was rolling. That is such a funny, weird movie. Fucking dog people, like, so great. Oh, damn. Rest in peace, Fred. Before we sign off for the day, I'd like to announce that in the next month, Austin and I will be debuting a new show. It's called Oscar Sunday, and it will be a weekly dive into the history of Oscar winners, nominees, and hopefuls. We will also be reviewing newly released movies to follow the yearly Oscar race, assuming we ever get any new movies. With the launch of that show, the Filmgazm podcast will also be changing. We will only be doing one episode a week on Wednesdays, and it will be our regular format, but it will not just be horror. We're adding genre films of all kinds, so expect a lot more horror, but also action, sci-fi, and fantasy. So you still get your weekly B-movie fix, and if you want to hear us rant about cinema classics and awards, tune in Sunday. And when this show is ready to go, we're going to announce it here first. Check our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for updates on the status of Oscar Sunday. We hope you give it a listen when it comes out. So we're going to do this one and next week's with the same format. But after that, we're going to be tweaking it a bit.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think it's gonna be cool. Like you said, Filmgazm will always be horror first because that's the best genre of all time. That always will be the best genre where the most interesting stuff, the most challenging and captivating stuff stays and lives. But I think it's important to broaden your horizons, and I think this will give us an opportunity to watch more foreign stuff that's not necessarily won at the Oscars, but connected the Oscars in some way. So it's just a way to talk about more movies.
Yeah. Austin and I love the Oscars. We love the history of the awards. So to be able to dive into that will just be fun for us.
Well, we hate them too.
We hate some of their decisions, and we'll be able to bitch about it. So it'll be fun. Well, thanks for making it this far, listeners. Hope you enjoyed Scream. Tune in Friday for American Pie. I want to thank Josh for making his debut on the show.
Yeah.
Next week, Austin and I are going into the badass vampire western Near Dark, starring Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen, and Adrian Pastor. Directed by Oscar winner Catherine Bigelow, and one of the best vampire movies I've never seen. First time watch for me. Sure to be a great one.
Whoa.
And I got to watch these things at some point. So this show is actually giving me an excuse to finally watch a lot of these movies. So I love that.
Yeah. You children, you're so fortunate to just be able to just pick them up whenever you want to. I had to fucking scour the shelves for these kinds of things, and word of mouth was really big for a lot of this stuff, which is coming back around now.
It is, especially with horror.
Yeah. Well, that's how horror has persisted, especially a lot of the underground stuff. It was always like, dude, you've never seen that? Oh my god, watch this, dude. I will also say, I don't know how it is for you guys in Texas, but look into patroning your drive-ins. Those have been opening up a lot, so go for them. If you've never been, it's a great experience. It's a great way to sit in your car, do whatever you want, and watch some movies. Fill in the blank with whatever that is. But, it's one of these things like Caleb had never been to a drive-in that I know of, and he and I went for a double feature of Terminator 1 and 2.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. So good. Totally worth it. But yeah, like you miss that experience of going to the movies. This is how you can get it in a way that's been around since the fucking 50s. So
yeah.
Well, two things. I have been to a drive-in. I do enjoy the drive-in. There is one about 25 minutes away from my family's place. So, New Braunfels. There's one down there.
Yeah.
So I'll have to check that out. We've actually been talking about that. And another thing, my family's actually in the process of building our own movie theater right now. So, yeah.
Shut up.
We have a big old outdoor screen that we've installed on the wall of our garage. We bought a whole bunch of outside lounge chairs, and we're going to be debuting our new setup this weekend with Starship Troopers. So it's we're very excited about this. So this will hold off our movie blues until we can go back and just be a fun thing to do.
Oh, I want pictures.
Oh, I'll send you pictures. It's going to be really cool.
Come get your ass down to Texas and we'll all go over, man.
Oh yeah.
I have thought about Texas, like checking it out for a while. My wife actually has a friend who she lives in Killeen, and from what I've heard, that like ghetto redneckville. I don't know.
Little bit.
But I've always wanted to go. Obviously, there's a lot of history with horror movies, especially Texas Chainsaw and things like that.
Oh, yeah. I've been to the house. I've been to the house where they filmed Texas Chainsaw. It's a restaurant.
Yes.
I know, and I want to go by the gas station, like all that stuff. Like I want to see all of that. So one of these days, I'm going to. I won't have to twist my wife's arm because she's going to get to see a friend of hers. So yeah, we'll just have to make a plan, and we'll definitely make it happen for sure.
Awesome.
Kick ass, man. Keep me updated on that because, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's great.
Right on, man. This was a great episode. I had a lot of fun. And remember, If a psycho calls you when you're alone and wants to know your favorite scary movie, you'd best remember your trivia, because he ain't going to stop, and not knowing horror movies might get you killed. See you Friday.
Peace.